Hello and welcome back to our channel for week 2 of the Sideline Spice Power Rankings update, courtesy of the boys at the Vault Studio. I'm Ryan and with me tonight is Luca.
Hey guys, how are you all doing on this fine evening? So before we get started into our power rankings, just a bit of housekeeping. We're doing it a bit of a different format this week. So Ryan and I, we love to ramble because we love our football. So we're just going to try and keep it short, sweet. 3 winners, 3 losers, couple of points as to why they won and lost, and guess what they're going to be faced with in the upcoming weeks. So.
Yep. As always, you can find our complete rankings by checking out the link below. But for now, let's get into the good stuff. Luca, kick us off with our biggest climber of the week.
So one of the most impressive teams for this week for us was the Kansas City Chiefs, who climbed 4 spots to 6th place in our power rankings, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right.
So Patrick Mahomes has had a historically good start to his career. He's thrown 10 touchdowns the first 2 games of this season. This team's defense is a legitimate concern, of course, but when you've dropped 38 on the Chargers and 42 in the Steelers to start the season, you have to back this team to outgun anyone in a track meet.
Yeah, look, as long as you can score more than the opponent, that's all that matters.
And it's an offensive league, as you always tell me these days. So next up, they've got the San Francisco 49ers. So all I can say is that I hope for his sake, Jimmy Garoppolo is giving his rotated cuff a thorough warm-up.
Got to stay loose, which brings us to number 2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Fitzmagic show continued against the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, winning 27-21 behind another 400 yards passing from Ryan Fitzpatrick, another 4 touchdowns, and a simply pedestrian 144.4 passer rating.
Sounds like you're finding your words hard to believe even as you say them.
It's like not coming out. But thanks to this, they've risen 8 places in this week's rankings. Win again this week against the Steelers, and we'll have no choice but to put Fitzpatrick and co in the top 10 of our rankings.
Yeah, well, he's already number 1 in my heart just for his post-game outfit alone. And just a heads up for our Sideline Spice fans out there, we're definitely going to turn that into a T-shirt one day.
Watch this space.
Watch this space for the best summer fashion accessory known. So for our final winner, I've got 2 teams tied. So first up, I have the Bengals, who were our biggest riser with a rise of 12 spots. Part of that was because we slept on them a little bit too much before the start of the season, but it also doesn't hurt that they beat an impressive Baltimore Ravens team at home and have sole position of first place in the AFC North. So, I mean, they've got no Joe Mixon next week, but if they can beat the Carolina Panthers and go to 3-0 without Mixon and without being at full strength, I don't think people can continue to ignore the Bengals any longer.
Another thing that's pretty hard to say when you consider their sort of history.
You can hear me choking on my words.
Tell us about the Jags.
So the Jags are our final team. So they rose 1 spot. The reason they made our list isn't so much for how many spots they rose. It's the nature in which they did it, at the expense of your beloved New England Patriots. So I don't think for a long time I've seen Tom Brady look that scared on the field. He looked like a field mouse getting hunted by an eagle when the Jaguars' defensive line was...
A jaguar, you might say.
Like a jaguar. They hunt field mice now, apparently. And meanwhile, Blake Bortles showcased his own personal brand of Bortle combat, throwing for 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. And looking like a prime Aaron Rodgers outside the pocket with laser point throws on the move.
It really makes you wonder whether they should keep Fournette on injured reserve so they have to open up the playbook a little bit more every now and again.
To be clear, we're not condoning holding out players who aren't injured, but they should open up their playbook. That is a very good point.
Yeah.
They could
learn really well.
They could learn a lot from their play calling when they don't have Fournette to rely upon.
Yeah. And so to the losers, with such upward movement, obviously must come equal downward. New York Giants, number 1, fell 8 places this week to 24th after another completely anemic performance.
Yep.
This time in a 20-13 loss to their divisional rival Dallas Cowboys. Offensive line play and the continued deterioration of Eli Manning is really holding this team back. Poor Eli was sacked 5 times for just shy of 60 yards. Really makes you wonder, who is at fault in this situation? Is it that offensive line which is clearly struggling? Or is it the long-standing QB? And should new head coach Pat Shermer have the confidence to seriously start looking at rookie QB Kyle Lauletta?
I think both parties are at fault, but when you lose to number 1 wide receiver Cole Beasley, I think you've got to take a good long look at all units on your team. Offensive line,
that's right.
quarterback play, and the whole defense has to take a long hard look at themselves.
Yeah, definitely. But up next week for the Giants, however, is our next loser, the Houston Texans, which means at least one of these teams is going to come out of week 3 with a win on the board.
Unless they draw. Unless they draw. We've had 2 draws already this season. You're about to speak a third one into existence.
I do have that talent.
You do have that talent. I could talk about the Texans all day, but I don't want our audience falling asleep like their offensive line. Despite having an offense so vertical that our Davis is looking down upon it with a smile, anytime you lose to Blaine Gabbert, 2 backup tackles, and a fake punt that went for a 56-yard touchdown, you are an automatic loser in my books.
Get out of here with that.
Get on out of here with that Bush League stuff. Now, next up, you mentioned before that they're playing the Giants, and I've actually named it the Sideline Spice Power Rankings Toilet Bowl. Not because now these teams are still far from the worst teams in the NFL. That distinction belongs to the Bills and the Cardinals. But I think they're 2 of the teams that have fallen most short of preseason expectations. And so hence the Toilet Bowl moniker.
They really should be doing way, way better. But anyway, perfect segue. The final major mover of the week, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lost a shootout against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, 42-37, and consequently dropped 4 places to 12th overall in this week's rankings. I must say that for me, this fall is not as much about the game against the Chiefs. For me, the Steelers are falling down the rankings because, well, not only have they won a game yet, but the team is a bit of a mess. Bell still hasn't reported to camp, and to make matters worse, there's been news this week that Antonio Brown was away without leave on Monday following the loss. Whatever the circumstances of what the team spits out to explain that, it still points to a locker room that is facing some amount of disarray.
Look, the team says that there's fine, but from what I've learnt from being a lifelong NFL fan is that when there's smoke, there's fire. And there have been reports that a former Steelers employee was taking shots at Antonio Brown on Twitter, saying that Big Ben made him what he is. Brown fires back saying, trade me what happens. Yeah. Apparently it was, I don't think it was a trade request, but the fact that Antonio has felt the need to respond in such a public manner to something that, he should be brushing off and ignoring, it shows the disharmony in the locker room. And as a Ravens fan, I for one welcome our disharmonious overlords.
No, this situations like this are never good for football, especially in a team that we expected to do so well. But in saying that, we could have an entirely different stance following their Week 3 matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Fitzmagic show.
Look, Ryan, if you had told me before this season that Week 3 Tampa Bay versus Pittsburgh was much-watched TV, I would have called you a liar and I would have told you to wake up from this fantasy land in which you live in. But here we are, any given Sunday. Tampa Bay Pittsburgh Steelers must watch football. Don't miss
Get amongst it.
Get amongst the can't miss spectacle. Now, that's about all we have time for today. So if you've liked what you've heard or want to check out more of us, leave a like or subscribe. We're only new to this whole YouTube thing, so every small token of your support makes a big difference. If you're viewing this on the Vault's Facebook feed, our YouTube channel should be linked in the comments below. Additionally, all our socials, as well as those of our friends at the Vault Studio, can be found in this video's description. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later.
Catch ya.